it's Friday. Mr. H hanging out here with you on planet Earth. How you guys doing today, huh? I got some history for you. I got some dinosaurs. I got some football. The three things everybody needs. Good things come in three. Sometimes bad things come in three. Sometimes mediocre things come in three. Depends which store you're going to. And if the Steelers had won on a Monday. So no Steeler games right now because it's July, so we're off to a good start. Now, I usually don't get mixed up in, domestic politics or contemporary politics, especially not contemporary domestic politics on this channel. But you got to admit, man, July 2024 is definitely going to show up in a history book very soon. I mean, this has just been an extraordinary election season. Last time we saw something like that, 1968. Yep, we're going to party like it's 1968. What's the first parallel we're looking at? Well, Lyndon Baines Johnson, no, he's not looking at Mr. H's test scores over here. No, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Democratic incumbent, decided he wasn't running. He was basically burned out in the Vietnam War and the Tet Offensive. He announced that if nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve. So, it's pretty obvious he's out of this thing. So he hangs on until the election. And over on the other side, in 2024, we got Joe Biden. Wasn't forced out by a war or anything. He was forced out by a very bad, very, very bad debate performance. I've seen presidential debates where one guy doesn't do very well. It's like watching a football game where somebody loses 31-10. At least they got on the board. This thing, it was 47-0 in the third period. They should have just called that off. I mean, that was just terrible, So LBJ, back in 68, he's stepping down. He's not going to run, but he's still in office. Same thing over here in 2024. Biden is not going to run for re-election, though he's going to stay in office, we think, until January. So there's a parallel already with 1968. Hey, guess where Democratic National Convention is? Yep, it's in Chicago. In 1968, it's in Chicago. In 2024, it's in Chicago. We've had an incumbent step down. In 68 and 2024, an incumbent has stepped down. Lots of chaos and confusion and rioting going on back in 68. Is that going to happen again in 2024? Some people say it happens all the time in Chicago every day, so why would it be different? But this time around, I got a feeling the Chicago PD is going to be putting in some overtime. Probably going to see the Illinois National Guard out there. I just saw this guy getting kneed here. That's not good. It's going to hurt. So, yeah, so is it going to happen again in Chicago? I guess we're about to find out in a month or so. Three-way race in 1968 and a three-way race in 2024. Yep, in 1968, Nixon the Democrat, Hubert Humphrey he's a Republican. Hubert Humphrey's the Democrat. And we got a third-party guy who used to be a Democrat. Yeah, George Wallace. Used to be a Democrat. He was running on the American Party, called it a Dixiecrat Party. Yeah, no chance, right? And actually ended up getting shot. I don't like the guy. I don't like anything he stood for, but you can't go around shooting people over that. Over in 2024, we got a three-way race. We got a Republican, Donald Trump. We got ourselves a Democrat, Kamala Harris. And we've got a third-party guy who used to be a Democrat. Yeah, Robert Kennedy. Isn't that interesting? And guess what? Someone already got shot at. So this is very eerie and very parallel. Going to see what happens. Now, how's it going to turn out? Well, history told us that Richard Nixon won. He's the Republican. He won. On the other side, we got Donald Trump, the Republican. Haven't had the election yet, but after he got shot at, look at this picture, man. All right, this is the election picture of the century right there. Some people have said he already won with this picture. It's very hard to argue. No one is going to forget this picture. This is iconic. All right, another parallel. Both these guys are making comebacks. We got Nixon, who lost in 1960, very close election, right, to JFK. And he said, you won't have Nixon to kick around anymore. And he comes back and wins it 8 years later. Donald Trump won it in 2016. Very contentious election in 2020. Some people have doubts about his validity. Nonetheless, he's coming back in 2024. So history seems to be trending in Trump's favor. Guess we'll see how it turns out. Here's some bonus information here for you. Guess where the Democratic Convention was 100 years ago? Yep, in Chicago. Guess what? A chaotic convention. No rioting outside, but a lot of people inside. Nobody had a candidate coming in, and they were like ballot after ballot after ballot until they finally found somebody, and that guy lost. So 3 straight Democratic conventions in Chicago. Well, 2 of them at least chaotic. We'll see what happens with the other one. And that guy lost in 1924. They lost in 1968, and we'll see how it turns out in 2024. But like I said, history appears to be trending over in Trump's direction. Now, I did you a big favor. Yeah. I watched this horrifying movie, so you didn't have to. It's called The Last Dinosaur. And I tell you something right now, it was actually pretty bad. It was made in 1977. So, maybe not the greatest special effects, but remember, they made Star Wars in 1976. They had monsters there, and they looked a lot better than the dinosaurs did in this thing. There's some other poster that talks about, T-Rex in the 20th century. Yeah. Well, this guy's got 3 claws, not 2, so it's definitely not a T-Rex. I don't know what's going on. Telling you about a fight coming. This fight looks better than the one they actually had in the movie. So I'll tell you the horrifying details. So it's about a T-Rex. Kinda, right? It's a guy in a rubber suit. And you can see it has 2 claws, so that's good. They're back in the right direction. The head is definitely not right. There's a fold in the back of his suit. I guess the guy was a little bit too short or too tall. I don't know. And it just looks pretty bad. Yes, I know it's 1977, but come on, man. You could do better than that. Hey, we got some other animals. After arriving at this place somewhere in the polar regions, through this big drill sort of thing, they get charged at by an animal they call the ceratopsian. I'm not sure exactly what a ceratopsian is, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't this thing. All right, this is Unitherium. I mean, pretty obvious, right? I don't know what's going on. Somebody was not reading the right dinosaur book. Yeah, can't go online. It's 1977. It's also 77, so Lord knows what else they're on. But yeah, I don't know why they call this thing a ceratopsian. If you saw the way this thing was running, the guy in the suit, you would have started laughing. And we got the epic, if you want to call it that, battle, kind of, between T-Rex and something I think is supposed to be Triceratops. I see 3 horns there, and what's with the legs, man? I mean, you can see there's a guy standing here, and I think the other guy fell down, was trying to get back up or something. So yeah, this is absolutely awful. It's so bad, I just couldn't help but laugh. What is this? Is this a cow's skull? There's a cow walking around here that got eaten up, and this looks suspiciously human. They had these quote-unquote cavemen running around in this movie too, so I guess one of them must have gotten too close. Had the epic battle. It starts when this Triceratops is apparently underground and emerges out of a hill to attack the T-Rex. I'm not going to tell you the winner because it's kind of a waste of time. and look at this tail. Okay, obviously this is a guy in a suit. I mean, I know it's 1977, but oh, come on, man, come on. Here's the plot twist. Yeah. It's not the last dinosaur. The last dinosaur is not a dinosaur. There's plenty of them running around. They're doing fine in this place. Nope, the last dinosaur is this guy named Marston. Right? He talks about how the world has passed him by and all this other kind of stuff because he's getting older and all this other kind of thing. And he wants to stay there because life is primal and everything. How old is this guy, man? Now, you don't need to be hanging around there. You're not going to be there. And you're walking around with a crossbow. Come on, dude. Get back to the surface. Get back to air conditioning. Watch some football. So that was really strange, but it was a bad movie. It was absolutely hilarious for all the wrong reasons, but even by 70s standards, man, it was pretty bad. So I just gave you about an hour and a half of your life back to you, so you're welcome. So there's all kinds of movie posters. They're terrible. I showed you the worst one. This is somebody drew this and put up on the net here. This was hilarious. This would have been a much better poster. They used the word ding dong because the character guy named Marston got mad and yelled at some guy, called him "you ding dong." So it kind of becomes a catchphrase for the entire movie and pretty much a good description of the entire movie. So instead of watching that, you could use your time reading a book called Heaven's Steel that Mr. H wrote. Yeah, you find it at lulu.com. It's all over the place. Always give Lulu props because, indie writers there. If you don't like the book, it's a great paperweight. The cats like to sit on it. It's awesome story, depiction of battles, or you start getting flashbacks if you've ever ridden on a bus in South Philly. Plus, Mr. H, he gets a buck. So, Heaven Steel, read it. Now, everybody wants to be undefeated, right? And very rarely does this happen. But sometimes you get undefeated seasons. Now, we have unconfirmed reports of the Dayton Triangles back in the 20s going undefeated. Of course, they didn't have an integrated or set schedule back then, so if you play 3 games and win, I guess you're undefeated. But when they got to the, I don't know, Paleolithic version of the NFL, when they had actual schedules and everything's integrated schedule-wise, we got a couple of undefeated teams. I bet you never knew this, but the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, the Cleveland Browns, undefeated 1948. They played in the All-America Conference. It's supposed to be All-American Football Conference. And, yeah, they won the championship. Yep, Cleveland used to win championships. 4 straight times. The league's 4 years, Cleveland won it each time. The only champion the AAF ever saw. In fact, it kind of messed with their attendance because the Browns would completely destroy the opponent. And, you know, even though I want the Steelers to win big all the time, it's going to get really boring watching them win huge all the time, you know. But the Cleveland Browns were 14-0 back then, one of the greatest teams of all time. Records are somewhat sketchy because, you know, they used it for scrap paper when the league was bought out by the NFL. NFL bought them out on the condition that you bring in the Cleveland Browns, who were very good. They won a championship a couple times in the 50s. The San Francisco 49ers, and for some reason, the then Baltimore Colts. San Francisco to have a rivalry with the Rams, and I guess they were hoping a Baltimore D.C. thing would happen, but it never did. It'll take a long time, but then we got an actual undefeated team that we have records from that we didn't have to use, you know, paint cave drawings for. Yeah, the 1972 Dolphins. They did it too. 14-0, walked through the season. They beat the Browns, Pittsburgh, and then defeated the Miami Dolphins in Super Bowl VII. Yet one of the greatest teams of all time, 17-0. Some people say they had an easy schedule. They don't write the schedule. Plus, it's hard to win 17 straight games, man, but they did it. So the first undefeated NFL team we can actually confirm. Like I said, you don't get undefeated teams very often. Had quite a few teams had one loss. But we did have another team that did go undefeated for losing at the very end. Yep, the 2007 New England Patriots. Almost pulled it off, man. 16-0 regular season. Won 2 playoff games. 18-0. Headed into, at the time it was called State Farm Stadium in Arizona to play against the Giants. And the Giants beat them 17-14. Yes, look at the shock on Tom Brady's face. Well, he would get over it soon enough. He wins, 7 Super Bowls in his career. There's Wes Welker and Randy Moss over there. And I still remember this play right here. That's the one that caught it on the helmet. Rodney Harrison. You don't want to be the guy that's catching the ball over. Well, there's your claim to fame, Rodney. I've been to that stadium a few times, and I've looked at the very spot on that field, man. It's just, you just get this really weird feeling when you see something historical like that. The same thing you get at Gettysburg or the Monongahela or, Marathon, someplace like that. So really interesting. They wouldn't let me go out on the field, though. Got to mention the 2004 Steelers. Why? 1, they're the Steelers. 2, they almost went undefeated that year. Remember Roethlisberger's first year. Problem is they lost that second game of the year. That's when Roethlisberger came in and was already out of control, and Tommy Maddox messed up his elbow. But that was a fantastic year. And they beat New England that year, who had an undefeated streak of 21 games. Yes, I remember that game, October 31, 2004. Steelers just totally destroyed New England. They jumped out to this huge lead. It was 14-0. Everybody knew what was going on. New England got a couple touchdowns at the end to make it look good, 34-20. But in the end, the Steelers triumph. And the triumph was inevitable. You know why? Because I was there. Yep, I saw the whole thing. There I am. See that crowd? Actually, I was nowhere there. I'm sitting in the cheap seats way in the back on the north end of the end zone. But I had a great time. And every football game I've been to with the Steelers, we've been undefeated. So end on that lovely note of undefeated. And if you're not undefeated, guess what, my friend? All you got to do is start the counter over, and you are undefeated. And if you don't win them all, win more than you lose. And if you can't do that, win the ones that matter. And if you can't do that, hey, man, pay somebody, okay? Get that win. All righty. You guys have a fantastic weekend. I will see you when I see you. Have a great day. Be nice to everyone and yeah, just be cool. Das vidanya.